Hi, everyone. Welcome to our webinar today on AI security certification. Something we're incredibly excited about. Been investing and working on for quite a number of months now, and really looking at the value and the opportunity we have to help all of us make meaningful progress in securing our AI systems and ensuring that we have the ability to validate and to have confidence in the certification and the security of the systems underneath those. And just really happy to spend time with you today on this topic. I'll introduce Jeremy and we'll get started. Jeremy.
Yeah, hi everyone. Jeremy Huval, Innovation Officer with HITRUST. And I'll introduce you, Robert. You're the Strategy Officer with HITRUST.
I am. Yes. Thank you, Jeremy. And yeah, this has been a journey, Jeremy. I think we've been working on, I think we began ideation on this in the middle part of 2023. I know there was a lot of discussion among ourselves and the industry and the leadership about the opportunity to look at assurances for AI systems. Chat GPT certainly took the world by storm and created a force of nature in technology. And as we really asked ourselves the question is how are these systems different and how are they the same from a cybersecurity perspective? How does one go about understanding the risk management of a system like how does one think about establishing the underpinning of very robust security that is so important to whether the system is exposed to threats and vulnerabilities? And it was really that body of work and that feedback from many people that we talk to regularly that said, this is something that is going to be a need here. And I think as we looked at the space and we looked at the problem further, we also recognized that unlike many things that one would look at in cybersecurity, this space continues to be very fast evolving. Although cybersecurity and cyber threats are always changing, the understanding and the awareness of AI systems, and how AI systems are operating and the risk and threats to those systems is something that I think organizations are at different stages of understanding in. So as we went through our journey and working with a very talented group of industry partners and leaders in terms of working group and other things, we came to I think a good place on this. So with that, next slide, please. Yeah. So what we'll cover today, we're going to spend talking about the certification, specifically the certification for deployed AI systems and how we built it, how we think about the risk and the threats that it manages, the control selection that went into it. We'll talk about the whole assessment and the requirement space, and what is the system that is eligible for be scoped for this system certification, what is potentially not. And I'll start saying that we're surprised of the final set of requirements. We're very close. I think what we're showing you is materially complete. It's something you can plan against, and I think have confidence planning against. But we've had an enormous amount of industry feedback, and we're going to continue to see those types of feedback, being placed in the final product. And we look forward to kind of exploring some of that with you today, but also just giving you the kind of foundation of how this works, and inviting you to lean in with us on the problem and work through that. So, next slide, please. So we did have a request for comment period. It has formally closed, and but the feedback was inordinate. We had a significant amount of thoughtful feedback, and I would describe some of the feedback as extremely voluminous. It had just a lot of people really thinking about it. People that we frankly don't hear from that often in the industry, leaning in on this and saying, yeah, this is something that we see value in, and here's an opportunity to shape it in a certain way or to provide a perspective on it. And there's some debate and tension that happens with that process because different organizations see the problem in different ways, and so we've been working through that, and as I said already, we're in the process of going through that final feedback and kind of coming up with what the released product will be as we push this out the door in December here. It is one of the pieces of feedback we've received is the transparency for this type of publication, not just with regard to what the controls are, but the threats that drove the control selection, the input in terms of how the systems are being evaluated, and how you would think about the actual security requirements for an deployed AI system. that has been something that we've had a lot of feedback that it was just a very comprehensive and clear explanation of how we're approaching the problem. And so that content will remain online for a period of time. It's available for any of you in the industry that want to just look at it and to make yourself more more aware and more expert at how we're looking at the space together. And while we're no longer receiving formal comments, we certainly would invite feedback through our normal channels if you see something that you have questions and want to explore with us. And it is out there and for your benefit, and we hope you'll take an opportunity and an advantage to take a look at it.
Absolutely. And while we talk, that QR code you can scan with your phone, and it'll take you to that draft. We call it the exposure draft or the RFC. So you can maybe click around and look at while we talk. Yeah, really, really rich content, we think, and it enabled a lot of feedback that will help make this product the best it can be. This HITRUST AI Security Certification and Assessment really meaningful. So do take the opportunity to click around and explore, even while we talk.
Yeah, terrific. And some of this I think you can follow along with as well. So I think as we get towards the end and we talk about one control example, you can actually see it kind of in a real world example laid out for you. So if we actually look at the challenges, my background, I come to High Trust from having served as a CISO of a Fortune 10 health company, and I did that job for well over a decade. And as a result of doing that work, I came into knowing people like High Trust and other people in the industry. And so I always kind of start with this: where are we starting from? What are we trying to do when we invest time, energy, and money in a problem? And I think we're at this crossroads right now where I was a detractor, or maybe a skeptic. It'd be a better word around how transformative will generative AI more specifically be for the industry. And we had a lot of use of machine learning and algorithmic determination processes and companies I've worked with in the past. And there was this new thing that was sort of like the new cool kid on the block called generative AI, and I was pretty cynical about it. Like, okay, it's another hypey thing and all that. And well, I'm well past that point now as a leader and an executive, and also now as a recovering security leader. Is that the landscape underneath all of us as practitioners and people that really care about doing solid system security the right way, the landscape's changed, and not just because it's new technology and in some new terminology, but in many cases, it opens up a whole new threat landscape and a risk landscape that we have to consider. We systems are very deterministic. That in terms of IT systems, you can test use cases, you can do acceptance testing, you can know in most cases that a system will yield a certain output or a certain performance based upon a series of testing criteria. And we have trained a whole industry of people to do software development lifecycle around those practices. And what we're seeing here with regard to AI is the fact that the model is very, very different. It's the determinations based upon the uh, the data model that's being used to actually generate the responses, and it requires an approach to system validation and an approach to system uh, monitoring and testing, and ensuring that the system works as designed, that you don't typically build into a traditional client server type of application system. So we need to understand that the threats are different. They're not necessarily fully addressed by existing control frameworks, and that systems can be more properly tested in a specific way if they're using these AI elements, and that's what we're trying to solve. Next slide, please. So we're very specific, and we want to be very specific about what we're covering here. So the certification that we're providing in this discussion, and our first certification offering for AI systems is going to be a system certification for an AI provider. And so what we mean by that is that we're talking about the actual provision of the AI system. And AI means many things in technology now. Sometimes AI systems are being used to defend systems, like you have AI enabled, intrusion prevention systems, for example. Sometimes AI is being used to attack systems, and so we hear about security and AI, and we sort of hear these different terms. But in this case, we're talking very specifically about it is your system being deployed, and it's for a purpose that you've identified, and you want to evaluate the security of that deployed system. Um, it also is something that uh, can accompany a validated assessment. So, with a certification is oftentimes the goal of organizations if they just want to validate the system, start their journey, understand how confident they can be that their system has been validated and tested. They can achieve that, and oftentimes if their scores have not risen to a certain level, that may be where they're starting. And we would actually argue that knowing that you're at a point here and you need to get to the bar here is a really good tool for management, because then you can have a transparent conversation about what we're looking at. We're still talking about the scope of the system. We've had good feedback around it, but really thinking about AI in a fairly broad sense. We've got some debate still on machine learning based uh, AI systems versus generative AI. Generative AI is definitely in scope. We're getting feedback in terms of where does an AI system start and end, and so we need to look at that. And then I think the last thing I would say is that how these systems deploy is much more than just the core decision engine, the how they're deployed in terms of agents, how you tune the data, how you do response augmented generation. And if you're like I was 2 years ago, and these are words that you're like, I don't even know what these mean, then this is something worth reading for you, because it'll be a great primer for you on the approach and how we look at the problem. So, next slide. So I think in terms of benefits, so it's a network effect. So obviously, the provider in the middle, the solution provider that's providing the AI system, gets a level of confidence that they've addressed the threats to their system. They can proactively communicate that those threats have been addressed, and they have a benchmark to say we've achieved a certain level of performance. So I think you look say, yep, that would be obvious in my mind what you would get as a provider. But there's the need to have clarity as well across the ecosystem of where the AI system comes from. And we learned this a number of years back with cloud services. Is many of the contemporary and most modern IT systems today operate in cloud fabric by that is owned and operated by cloud service providers. Well, the new AI ecosystem is built by companies. ChatGPT being the most commonly known, but many other very high quality companies that build incredible data models and are evolving those models very quickly. So the ability to know if you're a provider and you're using a system from one of those service providers as an element of your solution, you need to know that capability is also secured and has also addressed the threats and the risk that you would want to have covered as a consumer of that system. And then the companies that ultimately use this system as well, being an important part of this. So it's really all about transparency. It's knowing that we know what the system is, we know where the system starts and stops, we know who has done what, and that we know when we're responsible for it, and when a partner or a colleague or another company is responsible for it. So next slide again, please. Yeah, so I will pass this on to Jeremy, because I've already covered this a little bit, but Jeremy's going to get into just how we think about this provider space and defining further what we mean by provider, and then he'll take it forward from here.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Robert. So again, what we're really excited to roll out is a HITRUST AI cybersecurity certification. And it's an accompaniment to HITRUST's certifications. We have several. We have the R2 and E1 and I1. And this certification focuses on a subset of the overall security problem, in that it is the security controls needed to address really specific AI security threats, i.e., security threats um, that are present in a system that uses an AI model. And the organizations that roll out systems that use AI models are AI providers. We take the definition per ISO 22989 standard, so we're not making up a new term for what an AI provider is. But really, in our context, for the organizations that are eligible to seek out and achieve this certification, it's organizations that have that administer and control an IT system that uses an AI model. And really, it's twofold. One is the AI platform providers that let other organizations build AI systems on that platform. And it's also organizations that just build the end IT application that uses an AI model as well. So, for example, if you're a SaaS provider that has an AI based capability inside your SaaS product, you're an AI provider. In this context, you'd be eligible to use this certification to demonstrate the strength of your AI cybersecurity controls and capabilities. If you're an AI platform provider and serve up different kind of models for organizations to incorporate into their downstream IT systems, certainly this is also of benefit to you to help you understand and demonstrate achievement of really the key cybersecurity controls around AI that help mitigate security threats that are exacerbated by or unique to AI systems. So, what types of AI are we talking about here? Well, it's pretty broad, and we're excited to say that this AI cybersecurity certification, we hope, is forward looking. Hopefully, as forward looking as you can be in this really dynamic space that is AI. There's so much change going on, but we're really excited to announce that we've got considerations and controls for different kinds of AI Robert mentioned, obviously machine learning based AI like generative AI and predictive AI, as well as rule based AI, which is heuristic or classical AI, depending on the term you like. Robert mentioned we're working through feedback of our recently completed request for comment period. One of the feedback items we're actively exploring is whether support for rule based AI, like the non ML AI, is beneficial and necessary. So if you've got religion on that, we'd absolutely love to hear your perspective on it. It's one of the active things we're actively working on. But again, machine learning based AI, we've got support for, including LLM based AI. And in the LLM side specifically, there's so much investment and exploration and prototyping and systems coming out of that prototyping phase into production that use different design patterns. And we're happy to say we've got support for those different design patterns, including RAG, including agentic AI and plugins, which, if I'm reading the tea leaves right, agent-based agentic AI is really going to change things next year. We've got controls over agents. If you use embeddings, if that's kind of the design pattern you're using, like maybe storing a local vector database or something, we've got controls over that. And again, if you build on a AI platform as a service, there's specific considerations in this control set and certification for that as well. But what is it not? Well, this is not a certification that focuses on the risks that are introduced by simply using AI in your business. We understand that many businesses today have workforce members that use AI for different things. Like maybe a member of the marketing team goes to their favorite AI-driven chat site and generates marketing copy, or maybe you're using it to help draft emails. The usage layer of AI has so many controls that are applicable to more than just AI providers. Those usage layer controls will be introduced in the next major version of the HITRUST CSF for the benefit of all organizations, not just AI providers. So again, this is a focused, really specific offering for organizations that control IT systems that use AI, that incorporate AI specifically. And this certification focuses on really a key AI risk, which is security, but not every AI risk. There's so many more aspects to the risk equation when AI is in play. Ethics and privacy and safety, and they are generally viewed under the umbrella of trustworthy and responsible AI. Security is a key piece of trustworthy and responsible AI, but not all of it. And so, just to be very, very clear, this is not a certification or assessment over all aspects of trustworthy and responsible AI, but we really felt like it was beneficial to have a deep dive offering on the AI security aspects because it is so foundational and key to achieving the other goals that trustworthy and responsible AI outlines. And like many, many controls-based assessments, it's not exhaustive. Certainly, there might be legal and regulatory requirements specific to your organization that AI impacts, and this is not meant to be sort of a exhaustive legal remedy for every single AI based regulation that might apply to you. And many of you are considering ISO 42001, which is a really, really well thought out management system standard for AI. Now, the question you might be thinking about is, does this complement ISO 42001? Is this a replacement for ISO 42001? Is this an either or? And we'd offer that this is not an either or decision. This is a complement too. And why we say that is ISO 42001 is designed to be a management system for AI, specifically to provide guidance for establishing and implementing and maintaining, continually improving an AI management system within the context of the organization. Its scope is very broad. It aims to cover a lot of those trustworthy and responsible AI pieces that I mentioned earlier. For example, it has guidance in it such as determine whether climate change is a relevant issue, which is certainly not an IT security or an AI security issue per se, but it is a very important consideration that has to be built into any overall overarching AI management system. And because it's meant to be so broad, it intentionally doesn't go deep into any area, including AI security. Instead, it provides those guidelines for the deployments of applicable controls without going into very specific guidance on those management areas. And it explains that it can be combined with generally accepted frameworks and other standards around those critical processes, meaning it's designed to be compatible with things just like this that go into the prescription needed really to address the ins and outs. And so, is this a replacement for ISO 42001? It's not designed to be, but it certainly complements it. And we'd argue that it's not an either or decision, but really, you need a management system and you need the prescription and specifics in every pillar that that management system has to address. So, I'll talk a bit about the assessment itself next. We mentioned that this is an assessment paired with existing HITRUST assessments and certifications. Said another way, it's not a standalone assessment. And so as you go out and explore whether you can achieve this, it's not a matter of saying, what are the 40 something AI security requirements that are in this thing and where am I at on them? But actually, you have to understand the foundational cybersecurity of the IT platform that the AI capability is built into. Why? Because we believe very strongly that meaningful assurances over AI security cannot be reached in isolation. You have to consider the security of the supporting technology layers, like the application itself, like the servers, like several of the cloud-enabled services. So we understand and we believe strongly that AI-specific security threats are additive to the traditional IT security threats that the overall system faces. So an assessment of AI security controls should also be additive to any assessment or certification of foundational cybersecurity controls. And depending on whether you add this AI security content to a HITRUST E1, I1, or R2, which are different levels of foundational cybersecurity certification all the way up through risk-based, different levels there. The AI assessment and certification for security that you might achieve from HITRUST might have a different name. It'll either be an AI1 or AI2, and it might have a different forward-looking validity period. If added to an E1 or I1, the AI cybersecurity certification would be valid for 1 year forward after achievement, and the AI2 would be valid for 2 years, which again matches the E, I, and R duration. And when it comes to sort of scoping considerations for one of these assessments, the assessment scope has to include an IT platform that uses AI. In other words, like all this AI security content will be not applicable to the assessment otherwise. And per the prior point, you can't ignore the supporting platform or infrastructure. So if you're interested in achieving AI security assurances over a particular AI system, you can't just say, give me those 40 something key security controls that are AI related without considering everything else. And as always, HITRUST would only certify the platforms under the organization's control. Um, and so, if you like, for example, you're a user of someone else's SaaS application, it would be that SaaS provider that would achieve the certification instead of you as the user. And that's really nothing new. But the key point here to consider is if you are using an AI model that is outsourced, is provided by someone else that doesn't exclude you from doing this. The AI model itself can be commercially achieved or outsourced, and you can be using an AI platform as a service. So parts of the kind of overall AI system can be offered and provided by others, but the key aspect is it's your AI application that would be the focus of it. Um, as you set out to scope a HITRUST assessment that would include the AI security assessment combined within it, and also that could potentially lead to one of these certifications. There's tailoring aspects of the assessment that I wanted to talk about briefly. With CSF version 11.4 and later, which is coming out in December of this year, there'll be a new tailoring factor called security for AI systems. MyCSF, which is HITRUST's assessment platform, would only include the extra AI security requirements and assessment if that factor was included. So you've told HITRUST and MyCSF, look, I want to do this extra security assessment. Just because you've got an in-scope IT platform that uses AI, you don't have to include that factor. Doing this is optional. So it's really up to the organization how you scope your assessment still. But when you've included that security AI security factor in your assessment, you'll get some follow-up questions that you'll have to answer to further describe your AI scenario. The first question is, what type of AI model are you using? Is it rule-based, like heuristic classical AI, or is it a machine learning based? If so, is it predictive or generative? Also, you have to answer a question about was any covered or confidential data used in the training of the model or the tuning of the model or for RAG? And is the model's parameters and technical architecture confidential? So if you're using an open source model, certainly question 3 would be no. But if the organization has spent tremendous time and money and effort to build a model that is their sensitive and intellectual property, which would be devastating if stolen, certainly question 3 would be yes. So there's so many more aspects of the assessment itself and achieving and maintaining the certification. It's could be a whole webinar by itself. It was yesterday for our external assessor community. A lot of it will be discussed in an upcoming HITRUST assurance program advisory that's coming out very soon. It'll discuss so much more than we can get into here about how we do quality reviews on the assessments. What's it mean to have a deficiency in one of those AI security requirements? Is it a corrective action plan? All that stuff is going to be included in this advisory. And much of it can be previewed right now in that same certification specification exposure draft that was the subject of the request for comment period. There's a whole section on assurance program impact and stuff like that. So do check that out or look forward to the advisory, which is forthcoming. So I want to talk a bit about the requirements. HITRUST went on a journey to make sure that not only we can issue AI security assurances, and we're going to do that with the level of quality and consistency that is expected of HITRUST security assessments, but also we set out to really understand what are the key AI security controls that can be viewed as sort of a bar that needs to be met to have trust in the security of an AI system. And it was the subject of enormous amounts of effort, which was truly rewarding in the sense that we didn't do it alone. And I'm very proud to say we're very, very, very close to finalizing the list of AI security requirements. I mentioned the number 44 earlier, or 40 something. 44 was the number of requirements that are in the draft request for comment period. Those will change a little bit as we finalize the clearing the feedback and the comments, but we're within spitting distance of the right answer, I think. And so let's talk about how we reached those requirements, how we identified those requirements. And Robert, can you share a little bit about the process?
Yeah, no, I think yes, it's been a very robust process, and we're incredibly grateful for the fact that it's been done collaboratively with a number of our partners, both from industry leadership as well as our external assessor community. And we actually looked at like what would the inputs be. So we had a working group I'll talk about in a minute, was very valuable in helping us work through not just the requirement considerations, but the threats, and really provide real world and practical feedback of how these systems are deployed and operating. We looked at a number of AI security sources that are out there. I will qualify that by saying it's a very active space. There are many sources one could consider, not all of which have been fully endorsed or ratified yet. So it's an active space, but it's good. It's good information that informs us. And Jeremy will get into some of that in a minute. And then we really needed to get into those threats and risks, as I talked about earlier. And I think the threat analysis is such an important part of this, because when it allows you to sort of check your work in terms of working, okay, if I mitigate a risk against this threat, how can that risk actually be managed? If you start with the threats and say, have I really covered this threat space to an adequate level? And as you look across a lot of these AI security sources, the ability to look at those in the context of threats versus in the context of the security requirements alone is valuable. So I would encourage people to look at it from a threat orientation as well as a security requirement orientation, and it's a really good exercise to evaluate in your mind how your system is operating by looking at the threats and the security requirements in total, and you kind of look at them from different dimensions that way. So um, the two things that we aren't going to break down today, but I really want to call out, is that the HITRUST CSF is, as you all know, very comprehensive, and it's provided a very significant basis of capabilities around the problem of cybersecurity and privacy and many other things. And one of the things we wanted to look at is, as we went through the CSF, to say, is this CSF requirement relevant and applicable to the AI threats and the risk to AI systems. And so, what that allowed us to do is to really sort of call out those things that are existing in the framework that truly are applicable to AI. And at the same time, we've also added very AI specific controls. So it's for building a completely new control set for AI. It's really taking the best of what we've done that is relevant to a system that's in scope for AI, and applying that to the problem. And last but not least, I want to thank the thought leaders we've worked with. Jeremy and I co-host the Trust Versus podcast. Uh, we didn't really plan this season to be a lot of AI, but it was because of the work we were doing, and we came into contact with some really significant industry leaders that have not only given us their perspectives, but they've also provided feedback on our work, and we're really grateful for that. So I think it's been a terrific community effort, and I think we're on our way to a very high quality capability for the market.
Yeah.
So I want to thank our working group specifically. Again, I've mentioned them by design. We've got the external assessor working group on the right here, and we've got a very capable list of AI adopters and providers and names that you'll all recognize here as leaders in their own parts of the industry. And we wanted a strong amount of diversity in this space, because when you look at companies like Microsoft and AWS, truly some of the industry's strongest leaders in terms of providing services to the market, and now clearly leading in the AI space as well. Companies like Databricks that are just incredibly gifted at data management and understanding the data problem, and then Cloudticity as a true pioneer of health-oriented health-oriented security operations in a cloud context, and then certainly two strong industry luminaries in Johnson and Johnson and Optum, who are names people will know that are really at the forefront in the health industry of looking at not just this technology, but many things that are going on from an innovation point of view. So, and I think we're really grateful for the work, and we're grateful for the engagement, and I think the product you see reflected here reflects the leadership of these companies investing time and energy to get this right.
Yeah, absolutely. And the external assessor working group I'll talk about briefly um, really set out to answer a very specific question, which was what are the qualifications and skills and experience that an external assessor team would need to have to perform one of these AI security assessments with competence and to do it correctly and not get in over their heads. And the external assessor firms you see before you, very, very capable of answering this question. And the deliverable they put together in terms of suggested team composition, skill set, expertise requirements is also reflected for public comment in that exposure draft, and it is being incorporated into HITRUST Assessment Handbook as well. So we're very thankful for the team that came together to help answer that question, because certainly the validation associated with achieving one of these certifications of those controls, you can't do it with a normal team. You have to have a team that is coming into this with eyes wide open in terms of, look, AI is different, so I've got to think differently about the architecture here and sort of the necessary controls way upstream of release and production AI models. So we're very grateful to that team as well. So on the next slide, I'm about to show a list of authoritative sources that talk about AI security or governance or risk management to some degree. And I'll show this with the caveat that um, don't take away that HITRUST will incorporate every one of these sources into the HITRUST CSF. Don't take away that our AI security certification requirements cover in totality all of them. That's not what they're designed for. Instead, HITRUST did a lot of research about what the current state of thinking is about what the correct and necessary AI security requirements look like across really well respected organizations that have been thinking about this for a long time. And so we went to ISO's published standards, we went to ENISA published standards. OWASP does what we think is a really good job at articulating problem spaces just like this in an approachable manner. And certainly NIST publications could not be ignored when it comes to this. And so we had the benefit of researching and understanding um, these publications and standards and guidance to help shape our thinking about what right looks like, and to help influence discussions with those working groups. And you'll see sort of the fingerprint of each of these standards in the final product. But again, it's not meant to be an echo of any of these, certainly. So from ISO perspective, we looked at 42001. Even though it is governance focused, it is a force by itself right now, cannot be ignored, and it actually does go into a little bit of AI SDLC stuff. We looked at 38507, 22989, 24028, which is an older technical report, which is still valuable. ENISA, several, probably too many to mention. They're a bit older, but certainly very, very relevant. Security machine learning algorithms, especially, was sort of a seminal work in this space. OWASP, a special call out to the AI exchange from OWASP, Rob and his team. We had the pleasure of talking to Rob in detail on the podcast. It is a very, very approachable document that helps organizations and professionals without deep AI security knowledge really understand the security threat landscape and how it's different. So special shout out to the AI exchange. And then this 100-2 at the bottom there, the taxonomy attacks and mitigations, was very, very impactful in shaping our understanding of the adversarial threat landscape specific to AI. There are more. We looked at several more authoritative source documents from organizations like Homeland Security, CSA. Certainly, MITRE Atlas is a very rich taxonomy of not only AI security threats, but associated mitigations as well. Too many to name, but special thank you to all these organizations because, again, their early work in this space to document sort of the problem space and suggested mitigations and understanding threats that are out there was very valuable to us as inputs. We also look to several commercial sources because the commercial space is doing so much innovation right now. There are on this page AI security companies, first and foremost, like Hidden Layer and StackAware. There's also data governance companies like Databricks and Snowflake. There's GRC companies like Anecdotes and certainly Microsoft and Google. All of these had publications that we thought were either well written enough or approachable in some way, or had different aspects that help shape our thinking. Again, we're not covering all these in the HITRUST CSF or in this offering, but these were very impactful to us, and they are mapped in for every requirement that we have included in the assessment. There are mappings to the specific breadcrumb trail or a section or paragraph number for every single one of these sources. We also put together a taxonomy of AI security threats that we've mapped all of our AI security requirements to. Again, understanding the threat landscape we feel is key to identifying mitigations that are necessary, right? It's very difficult to identify key security controls without considering the threat landscape. And so we felt it was very, very important. This is certainly a subset of the AI threat landscape as a whole. Again, we're focusing just on cybersecurity. There's so much more AI risk impact and threat impact than just security. But if we hone in on this piece of it, security, there's certainly relevant AI security threats. Many of these are unique to AI, not all of them. Many of these are nefarious or malicious in nature, but not all of them. But for each of our AI security requirements, we have mapped back to these to help articulate that, yes, to mitigate prompt injection, you need this. To help detect maybe instances of excessive agency in an AI system, this control helps. To help prevent model poisoning or data poisoning, these controls help, etc. And this threat taxonomy, as it were, is also included in that RFC draft that you got the link to earlier. Now, when it comes to the specific AI security requirements, there was a question in the chat. I appreciate the chat was, where are these requirements going to be placed into the HITRUST CSF? For those who have used our control framework, it's divided up by what we call assessment domains, 19 total. And these numbers to the right here on this requirements table are reflective of the requirements as of about a month and a half ago when we started, maybe 2 months ago when we released the requests for comment exposure draft. These will change. So these numbers are illustrative right now. These will change as we finalize incorporating feedback, but again, pretty close. Not all domains have AI security controls in them because not all domains have AI security specificity, right? Like wireless doesn't have any AI security controls. No big shocker there. There's a few in privacy, data protection. We have that as a single domain. Those are data protection focused as opposed to privacy focused. This is still a security assessment. We also felt it was beneficial to, instead of dividing up just by the existing hierarchy in the CSF, but also by sort of group by AI security topic. And so topically, you can see a number of AI security areas and the count of requirements that are in them, at least as of when we released the exposure draft. And if we think about the overall AI security problem space, hopefully nothing is very surprising in this list. AI security threat management, absolutely, you've got to consider the threat landscape. We've got controls for threat modeling in there and red teaming, for example. Security governance and oversight as a subset of overall AI governance. There's a few security governance specific requirements. Development of AI software. It's so key to build security into an AI system as opposed to trying to tack it on afterward. AI legal and compliance from a security perspective is critical. And there's so many others. I'll talk about a few examples of each in an upcoming slide here. If you look at our exposure draft document, you'll see these topics, and I'm showing them here because it's helpful to kind of view the spread of these, sort of the breadth of these requirements. These topics will not be incorporated into the HITRUST CSF. It's just helpful in explaining it and certainly helpful in the development of it. So which AI security requirements are included? So I've got those topical areas, and I've got just a title of the requirement. Certainly these examples are not the full HITRUST requirement language. I've got a title. So you could see some examples. And again, illustrative because they could change as we continue to work through the requests for comment feedback. So example in AI security threat management, performing security evaluations of the AI system, such as red teaming. Example in governance is to augment written policies to address AI specificities around security. Example in development of AI software would be to provide AI security training to those AI builders and deployers. Legal example might be to, or is to, ID and evaluate any constraints on the data that's used for AI, like training and tuning, and even for RAG. Supply chain example is to review the model cards of models that are used by the AI system. Model robustness example would be to minimize and or anonymize the data that's being used for AI training and RAG and so forth. Restricting access to the AI models, encrypting AI assets at rest, like models. Monitoring the AI system for security, the inputs and the outputs for security events. And truly, the data and third-party supply chain and AI is as important to manage and monitor as it is for traditional software, maybe even more so. Sanitizing AI inputs and outputs is actually also critical. So we've got a requirement, for example, around output filtering. And incident response for AI specifics is another area on the resilience piece. So let's look at a really brief example. Again, this is pulled right out of the exposure content. And you can follow along. This one is about AI red teaming, the requirement that you'll see in the exposure draft, and probably very likely to have this exact requirement or with slight edits, if any, in the final version would be the organization performs security assessments such as AI or pen testing of the AI system, which includes consideration of AI specific security threats like poisoning and model inversion, and to do that prior to deployment of the newer change model and regularly, at least annually, thereafter. And the third part of it would be for the organization to take appropriate risk treatment measures, including implementing any additional countermeasures deemed necessary based on the results. You can see where that requirement will be placed into the domain, into the HITRUST CSF in terms of domain, category, and control reference. And that QR code on the right there is to see this content on our website. And which authoritative sources talk about this? Well, there's so many. You could see sort of the fact that we've mapped this particular requirement back to all these authoritative sources. And again, there's the breadcrumb trail and or the hyperlink where the hyperlink is available. But it's this particular concept is pervasive and the general thinking about AI security controls that are key. It is also discussed in like the U.S. Presidential Executive Order on AI security and safety, for example. It's also discussed in several commercial sources that we thought are relevant. But brief note on these mappings. We've included the authoritative source mappings, and I mentioned in detail some of the documents that we've read through. But certainly, again, these sources are not the key input. The key input is HITRUST understanding of the AI security threat landscape and working with thought leaders and organizations that are in the field implementing AI to understand really what's key to protect those AI systems. So the authoritative sources influence us, but certainly we're not echoing or harmonizing, or we're not echoing alone sort of what everybody else is thinking. So Robert, can we talk about some next steps?
Yeah, thank you. And I really appreciate the detailed example, Jeremy, and the opportunity for people to see how it works. And I do think to that area of looking at the cross references, the ability to sort of communicate with clarity to your leadership and to your team, why these requirements exist. It's is really important to not only say this is just the high trust perspective, which we think is quite valuable and it's based on a lot of great industry expertise, but it's tied off against work that is really relevant and valuable. So we hope it'll be a great help to you in your journey. So as we think about next steps, the first thing is like, okay, do I start now? Do I wait to start? I'm kind of somewhere in my AI journey, or maybe I'm considering my journey, or we're just experimenting with AI. And but we have a significant number of people that are like already in our ecosystem. They're already certified from a high trust perspective, and they have an AI problem, and they want to secure that AI system. So the first thing you might ask yourself is, well, do I just have to wait until I come up for high trust certification again, because then I can include the AI system in my scope, and I can then stand for validation of certification. And the reality is that we don't need to do that. We have provided for both inheritance or reliance from the existing R2 assessment as necessary to allow you to be able to pick those requirements and certification already completed, pick those up and put them into a certification object that will allow you to gain that AI certification. And we're saying in that case, effectively, we would build on the core E1 requirements. For those that understand our taxonomy, the E1 it consists of the most essential cybersecurity controls, which are also present in the I1 or the R2. So that's a good baseline place to just to park it. You'll inherit all of that or rely upon that, and you'll be able to do that. Then what you do is effectively you take the AI requirements, you score those requirements, you look at the overall execution of that. And just like all things high trust, we have quality expectations at a very high level. We want to make sure that when we together say this is right, we know it is to be right. And so after we work through that process, inheriting from your existing certification, goes through high trust QA, and depending upon what the basis is, you get the certification. So in this case, you would get the E1, you would get the AI one as well, because it's a one year term based on the E1 requirements. So so I would really encourage people to start exercising in this space. I think my experience as an operator and as a leader is that oftentimes people wait until there's pure clarity on the requirement and how we can execute before we measure. But what I find in my conversations with people is the space is so new and distinct that just getting started and working through the expectations and requirements is a really valuable tool. So we hope that the ability to do this really helps each of you as you look at your journey. So the other thing that's very obvious to us is that this is a new space with new terminology and new content. And it's as Jeremy just talked about, our external assessor participation. We've had a lot of conversation about what are the qualifications for assessors, and also what is the knowledge that each of you need as companies and relying parties to know that you have layered the right AI things onto your certification. So our academy program has been updated, and that update will go into effect in early January to provide a specific and additional content on the AI assurance offerings as part of the CCSFP training. Or if you're up for a refresh, you'll cover this new area as you go through your refreshments. So what we didn't spend much time on today was the AI risk management assessment insights reports. We've done other sessions on that when that product released earlier. But remember, we're offering today an AI certification for deployed systems, but we also have the AI risk management offering as well, which is a very valuable tool for organizations looking at their AI governance. So people that join Academy classes beginning in January will have the opportunity to have both of those capabilities explained and to develop the skills necessary to manage their programs and achieve their validations and certifications. And an important note here I want to make about this is that there is an increase in pricing for Academy in 2025. If you choose to attend and you want to schedule now for a 25 class, you will get that training under the 24 rates. And we are seeing a lot of people saying because the AI thing is new and novel, they want to learn about it, and they're going ahead and making arrangements to schedule that just to save the additional cost of the pricing increase. So if you're interested in it, I'd suggest you don't wait and go sign up for your academy class and get it on the schedule. It doesn't have to be in January; it can be when you get scheduled. So. Yet another thing, again, so much interest in this, and we really want to invite the market to adopt. We do have a discounted pricing approach. You can obtain report credits for the AI certification. If you are an existing HITRUST customer, this is a very significant discount for you. Again, it's really understanding some people may be kicking the tires. They may be starting on the process of working through their journey, but I don't know that I'm ready to spend all of it yet. I just need to get started, and so we want to make the capability available for the market. And I invite you to speak to your team at High Trust about your needs and what the business requirement behind those needs are. And I think we've got some flexibility here in front of you that will be really valuable as you step into this. And again, until you see it, you don't quite know what it is, and we can't explain in this webinar, and other things are explaining what it is, but helping people get into the journey and to start this journey and to understand how to do good, secure, and appropriate AI systems is really an important mission for us. So. And last but not least, certainly the I think Jeremy and I will both have to celebrate in December. The product will be available in the early part of December of this year. It's a labor of love. It's been months in the making. It does include the 11.4.0 release of the HITRUST CSF and all of the content you see and we've talked about today. It's not just a matter of we turn a switch. We want to make sure the industry understands the value of it and why we've built it the way we have. And so the advisories, the hand dates, and your ability to actually perform an assessment and submit for certification, all of that will be available, and it's available for you to start working on it in January as you look at your plan for 25. And so we would invite you to join us on the journey, and most importantly, we invite your feedback. We have already seen people saying we're starting our journey, and we know next year this is novel space. I saw a question on that or two. We know the requirements will evolve. We know regulatory expectations will change. And you can, I hope, rest assured that we know that going in. And so we know that the product will evolve, but you can start now with a confidence that the foundation is solid and the foundation is not going to shift under you.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a couple of questions on the prior slide about if we add the HITRUST AI cybersecurity certification, and we're already doing an R2, is there an extra cost to HITRUST, extra fee to HITRUST, or is it just the extra fee that we'd spend on the external assessors looking at more content? And the promotions we're talking about on this side specifically talk about sort of a reduced fee for the report credit that would be required to have HITRUST review that AI cybersecurity testing and issue that HITRUST AI cybersecurity report, which is a PDF. It is a very well formatted, comprehensive report focusing just on AI cybersecurity, which is issued alongside your E1, I1, or R2. So you get kind of multiple deliverables from this. So there is a report credit for AI cybersecurity that's necessary as well. Purchase from HITRUST, and the promotions here talk about sort of getting that price down of it. So there is an additional price, and again, it's advantageous if you're interested to acquire that report credit now. Even if you get it now under the promotional rate, the report credit itself doesn't expire for another year. So you actually have plenty of time to figure out when you're going to incorporate it. Anyway, so hopefully that answers that question. So thanks, everyone. There was a lot of activity in the chat, which I feel is a really good sign of people thinking about how to internalize this assessment into their HITRUST assessment process. We got several questions that we indicated. There's a lot here to the question. We'd love to connect after this to talk about your specifics, whether you're building on like an AI platform with services provider like AWS Bedrock, and there's questions about sort of does this focus on precision and performance of the AI model and stuff like that. So it's very difficult to have the meaningful kind of conversations one-on-one about your specifics in an avenue like this. We would love to connect with you and talk more. Um, and if you'd like to learn more about what this AI cybersecurity offering can and will mean to you, given your use of AI, let us know. Like we have, HITRUST is, I think, unique in the sense that we're not some monolithic certification body that you can't reach out and talk to. We have a team of professionals you've got a relationship with. So please reach out. And we're very excited. We feel very privileged to do this. So thank you so much for your
Yes.
attention.